This isn't how we do things here." Dave Roberts said this, not with anger, but with the quiet disappointment of a manager who had just watched his young prospect cross a line that veterans know never to approach. The Dodgers didn't just bench Dalton Rushing that night. They sent a message that echoed through every corner of their clubhouse: no one is untouchable. It should have been Dalton Rushing's breakthrough moment. The 23-year-old catcher, the organization's top prospect, had been called up with expectations that bordered on unrealistic. Some were already calling him the future of the franchise. The next great Dodger. A generational talent behind the plate. He had started 8 of the last 10 games. His bat was alive. His defense was improving. The coaching staff spoke about him with the kind of excitement reserved for franchise cornerstones. Everything was trending in the right direction. And then, 3 hours before the series opener against the Diamondbacks, the lineup card was posted. Dalton Rushing's name was nowhere to be found. Not catching. Not on the bench. Just gone. In his place, a name that most casual fans had to Google. A veteran catcher. A 3-year contract signed so quickly that reporters were still scrambling to confirm the details when he was already taking batting practice in Dodger blue. Something had happened. Something that turned a promising young career into a cautionary tale in the span of 48 hours. The details came out in fragments, the way clubhouse secrets always do. Whispers in hallways. Off-the-record conversations. Sources who would only speak if their names stayed buried. It started 2 nights earlier, in the visitors' clubhouse in San Francisco. The Dodgers had just dropped a heartbreaker to the Giants, blowing a late lead on a wild pitch that bounced 15 feet in front of home plate. The kind of play that's nobody's fault and everyone's fault at the same time. Dalton Rushing had been behind the plate. Young. Talented. But still learning the nuances of blocking balls in high-leverage situations. It happens. Even the best catchers in the world let one get away sometimes. But what happened after the game was different. According to 3 separate sources within the organization, Rushing didn't take the loss well. Not in the competitive, fire-in-the-belly way that coaches love to see. In a different way. A dangerous way. He blamed the pitching staff. Not quietly. Not in the private space where teammates work things out. Out loud. In front of everyone. Maybe if someone could throw a strike when it mattered, I wouldn't have to dig everything out of the dirt. The words hung in the air like smoke. Veterans' heads turned. Coaches stopped mid-conversation. Because in baseball, there are unspoken rules that matter more than any rulebook. And what Dalton Rushing had just done was break one of the biggest. You don't call out your pitchers. Ever. Especially not as a 23-year-old catcher with less than 50 games of major league experience. Veteran reliever Evan Phillips was the first to respond. His voice was calm but firm. "We're all in this together, Rook. You might want to remember that." Rushing should have backed down. Apologized. Recognized the moment for what it was and moved on. Instead, he doubled down. "I'm tired of being the one who has to clean up everyone else's mess." That's when things escalated. Teammates moved closer. Voices rose. What started as a verbal confrontation nearly turned physical when Rushing stepped toward Phillips with his chest puffed out, fists clenched. 2 veteran players, Mookie Betts and Freddie Freeman, stepped between them immediately. "That's enough," Freeman said, his voice cutting through the chaos. "Everybody take a breath." But the damage was done. The coaching staff had seen everything. Andrew Friedman, watching from the tunnel, had seen everything. And most importantly, Shohei Ohtani, sitting quietly in the corner of the clubhouse, had seen everything. By the time the team plane landed back in Los Angeles, the decision had already been made. Andrew Friedman doesn't make impulsive moves. The Dodgers' president of baseball operations built his reputation on calculated decisions, long-term thinking, and organizational discipline. But when it comes to clubhouse culture, he moves fast. Within 24 hours of the incident, the front office had contacted free agent catcher Austin Hedges. The negotiations were swift. 3 years, $21 million. Not a blockbuster contract, but enough to show this wasn't a temporary band-aid. Austin Hedges wasn't brought in for his bat. His career .194 batting average made that clear. He was brought in for everything else. Leadership. Defense. The ability to manage a pitching staff. And most importantly, the kind of veteran presence that reminds young players how things are supposed to work. When Hedges arrived at Dodger Stadium for his introductory meeting, he didn't need much explanation. He'd heard the stories. He knew why he was there. "I'm here to catch, to lead, and to win," he said simply. "Everything else is noise." Meanwhile, Dalton Rushing was summoned to Dave Roberts' office. The meeting lasted 17 minutes. Those who were nearby said it wasn't loud. There was no yelling. Just a calm, direct conversation about expectations, accountability, and consequences. Roberts has managed young players through mistakes before. He's known for his patience, his teaching ability, his willingness to let prospects learn through failure. But there are mistakes, and then there are choices. What Rushing had done fell into the second category. When Rushing left the office, his face was pale. He didn't speak to reporters. Didn't stop for teammates. Just grabbed his bag and left the stadium. 3 hours later, the lineup card went up. Austin Hedges was starting behind the plate. Dalton Rushing wasn't even in the building. When Austin Hedges stepped into the batter's box for his first plate appearance as a Dodger, the crowd offered polite applause. Most fans were still confused about what had happened. Social media was exploding with theories. Twitter detectives were working overtime. But inside the clubhouse, everyone understood. Hedges worked a full count against Diamondback starter Zach Gallen, fouled off 3 tough pitches, then grounded out to second base. Not pretty, but professional. Exactly what the Dodgers needed. Behind the plate, the difference was immediate. Between pitches, Hedges was constantly communicating. Hand signals. Verbal cues. The kind of leadership that doesn't show up in statistics but changes the entire dynamic of a game. In the third inning, with a runner on second and 1 out, he called for a backdoor slider to Christian Walker. The pitch caught the outside corner perfectly. Strike 3. Walker argued, but the frame job was textbook. Veteran work. In the 5th, he blocked a curveball in the dirt that saved a run. In the 7th, he called for an inside fastball that jammed Tommy Pham into a double-play ground ball. The Dodgers won 4-1. The pitching staff looked comfortable. The game felt controlled. Hedges went 0 for 3 at the plate, but that wasn't the point. After the game, Evan Phillips, the same pitcher Rushing had confronted 2 nights earlier, spoke about the difference. Hedges knows how to run a game. He's been there. He's done that. There's a comfort level that comes with experience. The message was subtle, but clear. The real shock came 30 minutes after the final out. Shohei Ohtani's regular post-game media availability was scheduled as usual. Reporters expected the standard questions about his at-bats, maybe a comment about the pitching performance. What they got instead was something nobody saw coming. Ohtani entered the interview room with his translator, Ippei Mizuhara. His expression was more serious than usual. Not angry, but focused. Intentional. The first few questions were routine. How did the new catcher look? What was the team's energy like? Ohtani gave short, professional answers. Then a reporter asked the question that opened the floodgates. Shohei, can you talk about what happened with Dalton Rushing and how the team is handling internal conflicts? The room went quiet. This wasn't a standard baseball question. This was asking a superstar to comment on a sensitive clubhouse issue. Most players would deflect. Give a generic, "we're moving forward," answer and move on. Ohtani didn't. He leaned forward slightly, his hands folded on the table in front of him. He began speaking in Japanese, slowly and deliberately. His translator listened carefully, then turned to address the room. "I want to say something important, so please listen carefully." Every reporter in the room straightened up. This was different. "When I signed with the Dodgers, I didn't come here just to play baseball. I came here to win a championship. To do that, everyone must understand their role. Everyone must respect the process." He paused. The translator waited. "Dalton Rushing is a talented player. Very talented. But talent alone does not win championships. Respect wins championships. Trust wins championships. When you break that trust, there are consequences." The room was completely silent now. Ohtani continued, his voice steady. "In my career, I have played with many young players. Some became stars. Some did not. The difference was never talent. The difference was always how they treated their teammates." Then, unexpectedly, Ohtani switched to English. His accent was thick, but every word was deliberate. "I have made mistakes. Many mistakes. But I never disrespect my teammates. Never. That is the line you cannot cross." A reporter tried to ask a follow-up question, but Ohtani raised his hand gently. "I am not finished." The room froze. Some people will say the Dodgers are too hard on young players. Maybe they will say Rushing deserves another chance. Maybe they are right. He paused, his eyes scanning the room. "But I will tell you what I know. Baseball is not just about talent. It is about trust. When you are in a big game, in October, with everything on the line, you must know your teammate will be there for you. Not for himself. For you. For the team." Another pause. "If you cannot trust your catcher, you cannot pitch. If you cannot trust your pitcher, you cannot catch. And if the team cannot trust each other, we cannot win." Ohtani leaned back slightly. "The Dodgers made the right decision. I support it completely. And I hope Dalton learns from this. Because if he does, he can still have a great career. But first, he must understand, respect comes before everything." With that, Ohtani stood up. Before leaving, he added one final thought, again in English. "This team will win a championship. But only if everyone puts the team first. No exceptions." He walked out of the room, leaving behind a silence that felt heavier than any words. Within hours, Ohtani's comments had gone viral. Social media exploded. Some praised him for his leadership. Others criticized him for being too harsh on a young player. But inside the Dodgers clubhouse, the message was received exactly as intended. Dalton Rushing was reassigned to AAA Oklahoma City the following morning. The official statement cited development needs and organizational depth. Everyone knew the real reason. Austin Hedges became the starting catcher. Not because of his bat, but because of everything else. Dave Roberts addressed the media briefly the next day, his message simple and direct. "We have championship standards here. Everyone is accountable to those standards. Everyone." The Dodgers moved forward. The wins kept coming. The pitching staff looked more comfortable. The clubhouse felt tighter. But for Dalton Rushing, sitting in a minor league clubhouse 1,500 miles away, the lesson was just beginning. Talent can get you to the major leagues. But respect, trust, and humility are what keep you there. The question now wasn't whether he had the ability to return. It was whether he had learned what it takes to stay. Some lessons hurt. This one was supposed to.